Hi, this is Luke from Instant Chaos, and today we're going to take a look at three crowdfunding projects this week because it seems to be a very light week. So the first one we'll probably kick off with will be Kingdom Rush, the Elemental Rising, and then I've chosen another two more, which I've chosen really for two things. One of them is whether it has an early bird or not. The other is where there is a talking point around it. But let's face it, I'll probably go on a little bit of a rant about those talking points. So it's up to you whether you want to stay. I think there are some interesting things to talk about, but again, that's up to you. So the first thing I'd like to start with is, funny enough, a tangent. Now, my tangent is this. Have you guys actually paid attention to this? And more specifically, in Kickstarter, the one of the things the campaigns and the projects really does, and is one that I really dislike, and I can see why they do it, and it looks like they brought it over to Gamefound, is they give you fake funding goals. So for this particular project, they gave us a funding goal of 50,000. Personally, I think that's a little bit low. I don't think realistically, if this project was just over 50,000, that they're going to carry on with this project. Chances are they're going to cancel it and re-release it down the line. And so what they're really trying to do from a marketing perspective, in my personal opinion, is they want this to be as high as possible so that they can show how successful their campaign or marketing project was, based on the higher the number this is. Now, the thing that I just noticed when I went to record this video, and I'm interested to know if anyone else has noticed this and whether my speculation is correct, and it's purely a speculation and opinion. I have no basis to go on it because let's face it, there's only been two campaigns that's been launched on Gamefound, and that is this bar here. So has anyone really paid attention to the dark green bit, or more specifically the light green bit? So what this looks like to me is the true funding goal. Funny enough, it looks, if I am right in my speculation, then the funding goal for this particular project should be around within that, let's say, go with 250 to 300,000 US dollars. Um, because one of the things I did notice when this thought came to mind is I went to check my Ice Vanguard video, and I've checked some of the other content providers, and unfortunately all of us were a little bit too late with the ISIS Vanguard, because by the time we looked at it, whether it's what 2 or 3 days later, it's already hit the 1 million US dollar mark, which meant when we looked at this, the dark green bit was here, and it was pretty much basically negligible. You can barely see it. So that was early on in the campaign, whereas here we can clearly see there is a clear dark green bit, and I'm interested to know further down the line, when does this green bit covers the rest of this dark green bit. It's my own speculation. I hope that I'm correct, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know if this is correct, or if you've noticed or suspected the same thing as I did, but it's just something I just noticed. So without further ado, let's go away from my side tangent and let's talk about Kingdom Rush Elemental Rising. If you don't already know anything about this game, then in a short summary, it's a tower defense puzzle game based on a very popular app on a mobile. I've played the mobile app on tower defense. It is a really good game. I really enjoyed it, and at the time I was late to the whole Kickstarter, was it the Kickstarter scene with board games, and at that time I also had the opportunity to late back Kingdom Rush. Now, one, I was also early. Two, I was skeptical of whether they can give you that was it tower defense type feeling into a board game, and because I was relatively new, I was skeptical. I did not back it. Now, since it's been released, it's got great reviews. It's essentially a polynomial game. Not even sure if I said that correctly. It's kind of like a puzzle game that you cover the enemies to show that you've essentially defeated that particular wave, and we'll get back into that when we go further down. So, ah, also, I forgot to mention, this is actually the a second version standalone game of Kingdom Rush. The first one that was released, the original time, was actually called Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. And so what they did with this one is they made some very different mechanics as well as some differences, which we will talk about now. So other than some new heroes, some new towers, they've added this section here, which I do like, and at the same time, I felt like they didn't really promote it well enough as to really highlight what's new. So, I mean, obviously, new heroes are new heroes, but you know, what's new about new heroes? Did they add a new mechanics? And I don't think they really explained that well. So let's go through this. So if they added essentially an environmental element, they call this particular element, but I also refer to the hazard as an element because it's something in the environment that you can interact with. So they've added this in. You guys can take a look at that if you wish. They've added essentially new monsters based on this element or an elemental. So this is a magma elemental. Obviously, there'll be probably an earth elemental as well as some fire and wind, so forth. They've also added some mini bosses throughout the, I guess, the in between all the waves before you hit the final boss. Um, they've they've added these kind of like shield and abilities to I refer to this as a wave of monsters because I'm used to when I'm playing tower defense, there are waves that keeps coming. You defeat the wave and the next wave kind of come through. This one is a little bit similar, but it's not quite a wave. It's just essentially a group of monsters that will come out, and then you have to quickly defeat it before it hits your town. And then it mentions that there's some new towers, and so essentially it does more of what the original has, but it doesn't really tell you some of the newer stuff like that it has, like say splash damage. Because I think this is essentially the splash damage. Oh no, that's multiplication. Yeah, so there's some element, well, mechanics that they haven't really explained to you that's different. So I thought that was interesting that they chose not to go down that path. Instead, just put a whole bunch of marketing spiel, which is could be you could have mistaken that for just the original Kingdom Rush Rift in Time game. So now one of the I guess the downside or the one of the things that I was quite wary of, and it might be something that will be prevalent to you, is the game can be quite fiddly. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of symbols. There's was it the type of damage you do means you pick up different elements. This yeah, you just have to start recognizing what the symbol does. There's these stickers that you have to take on and off. That they're obviously reusable, which is good. So it's not a one-time use. And obviously, if you have the original Rift in Time game, you can interplay both the heroes in both games, which is great. That's essentially a crossover type game. Now, if we go back and talk about the heroes, let's take a look at here. The hero seems to have a bit more ability, but they all look very samey. And what I mean by samey is you notice that this guy does a 2x1 and a 1x1. And then you've got her, Brixa, doing a 2x1 and a 1x1. Or in this case, a 2x1 on this particular space. Deirdre does a 2x1. Laura does 3 1s. And this does a 2x1. Now, if I was to compare this to the other set of heroes, this is a 2x1. This one does a nice corner piece, which is, I don't even know how it's like. It's kind of like a semi 2x2, but it's actually an L shape. And then you've got a 2x1 and a 3x1. So the variability of the Kingdom Rush hero seems to be more variable by comparison to Elemental Rising. I'm not 100% sure how they'll play out. I think it's mainly because these particular heroes each have additional special abilities which make them more unique. But the whole puzzle aspect of trying to cover as much damage seems that puzzly type is not as interesting as per Rift in Time based on the number of available stuff that you can cover off. So if I was to go back and talk a bit about the fiddly bits, so you have to know stuff like, where is it? These different types of damage. So if something was damaged by arrows, you didn't have to go to find the arrows from the arrow pile and then place it however you want to place it. If you did it from like these magic stuff, then you have to grab it from those. So it's not like it's simple where it's either a 2x1 damage or a 1x1 or a 3x1. You actually have to go hunt the right 2x1, maybe because there may be some resistance or whatever. But that adds to that whole fiddliness. So if that's something you don't like, it's just something to be aware about. So you've got these horde trays, and this horde trays is what I tend to refer to as waves. So they tend to put essentially a monster or a horde wave on it. Let's just see if I can find one. Nope, does not look like I find one. So essentially there's a grid to go on those horde trays, and on that grid there are essentially pictures of monsters, and as you damage them by covering them with these damaged, I guess, polynomial shapes, then that shows that you've defeated that particular monster. So that's where that fiddliness come in. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's just something to be aware of. But I've seen some gameplays, people seem to enjoy it. I don't think it's that bad, but again, like I said, it's just something to aware of, and I think I've gone on a tangent for that long enough. So let's move on. So the next thing more want to take a look at is probably in the FAQ, and in the FAQ is this thing about this wave 1, wave 2. So just want to really highlight that if you're getting Elemental Rising and just Elemental Rising, you're only doing a single wave shipping. The dual wave shipping seems to be, or split wave shipping, tends to be only, if you read this, and if I got this correct, is, what was it, this one? Rush in Time is what's being sent out in wave 1. So if you don't already have Rift in Time, then that's when you might want to do a split wave shipping so that you can at least play, I guess, the original game first before you get Elemental Rising. And Elemental Rising is only in the March 2022, which is where wave 2 ships. So if you're only interested in Elemental Rising, then do a single wave shipping because you're gonna get it at the same time as split wave. If you did split wave, then really all you're getting is if you happen to get some of the add-ons, and what the add-ons are will be something like the component add-ons, like the 3D tar, the tokens, and the soldier. And so it's really up to you whether you want this first. But if you're not getting Rift in Time, there's no point getting this without Elemental Rising. Just something to be aware of. Right. Well, I guess while I'm here, the soldiers miniatures, it's up to you whether you want it. For $5 it's not too bad. However, if you were to say cheat a little, if you look at the deluxe pledge of Elemental Rising, it gives you these 12 knights miniatures. So in theory, you could just use the 12 knights to replace the 12 soldiers, because if you look at your 12 knights, they don't really look that much different from your 12 soldiers. I mean, let's face it. But if you want something different, then sure, by all means, it's only $5. It's not gonna break the bank if you got it. But if you're looking for any way to try and save as much money as possible, then I would suggest skipping those miniatures. This one, I would have thought that this should have been in the deluxe pledge. I'm very surprised that it's not in here. It's neither here or there. It's just a little bit of a gripe. I believe they should have added it because you can't really be deluxe without deluxe tokens. Uh, yeah, towers from all the reviews I've seen, it seems essentially mandatory. So I'm a bit surprised that they didn't try and make it as part of the game. But at the same time, I guess they were trying to lower the entrance cost as much as possible, so that way the backers has options as to how premium or deluxified a board game they want. Personally, I'm a deluxified person, so I would have got at least these two. From what I said before, chances are whatever game I play, I won't need both soldiers and knights at the same time. And if that's the case, then I might as well just use the knights. I'll have to take a look at this closer to see maybe there is some differences, but at the moment I don't believe there is. So like for example, this one is actually your sand warrior, so you get it from here. So I don't actually see anything that goes we use knights over soldiers that are completely different when we play a particular map, unless of course we switch up all the enemies or some of the towers. Maybe that's how these come in. But does it make a huge difference? Don't know. That's what you're gonna have to research and decide for yourself. I don't think they would, but I could be wrong on that. So what Deluxify really means in this particular game is these 14 miniatures. You've got game trays. So Deluxe essentially means game trays, and well, I've got no issue with game trays as a company because I think they've done very well in what they provide, in the service they provide in terms of providing game trays that help us with a quicker setup. So more than worth their money, and especially since this is only 15, is that 15? Yeah, 15 US dollars more for a bunch of game trays, which really helps your setup time. Yeah, I would always recommend Deluxe generically over retail, because if you can find retail here, well, sorry, buying retail here doesn't give you as much value, because chances are you can buy retail later on when it does reach retail. Right. And the other interesting thing is they've added a Emperor chest for all of the Rift in Time. So the Emperor chest is essentially a big box version of what's it, Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. It can contain everything that you see here, which is in this Rift in Time Emperor collection, which is everything other than the 3D towers. I thought that was weird, because you've got this big box, but now you still have to keep another box separate just to keep your 3D towers. I'm not 100% sure why they did that, but from what I've seen, 3D towers seems very crucial. But again, up to you whether that's the same for you or not. Now, I've got a little bit of a slight gripe about this, and that is, can anyone explain to me why well, I understand Kickstarter, because let's face it, Kickstarter wasn't made for these kind of campaigns. It was a generic Kickstarter site for all sorts of campaigns. But Gamefound should already know that our community really likes voting and polling. So why are we having to vote and poll by comments? Why are we filling up all our comments with all this crap? Because it serves no purpose other than to say A, D, C. It's like, what value is it? Like, what am I missing something? Is there value in seeing who exactly voted C? Like, I can go see which, like, let's say I disagree with C, and I think that it is, like, am I supposed to go, oh yeah, so these are the so-called idiots? Like, no, this bit has no value. So yeah, another side tangent, another rant. But if you guys could know or have an inkling as to why Gamefound likes this, or maybe some other, I guess, website or community uses the same thing and there is value in it that I don't see, yeah, let me know, because we saw this as in ISIS Vanguard. They did what, 4 or 5 polls, so all the comments just got filled up with people voting C's and A's. Like all you see is letters like everywhere. It was ridiculous. And now, to be honest, I thought maybe they were trying to get Gamefound, the website, out early, and so some stuff got missed out, and they probably didn't talk to their own marketing team to see what they want to do. But now that we've got one campaign, well, Gamefound had one campaign under their belt, they should already realize that polling seems to be a very good way of getting involved with the community like ourselves. And the fact that they haven't done anything to I guess make this easier for us, I find it odd. I feel like I'm missing something, and I'm just the idiot. Like, yeah, yeah. If you guys know, let me know. But yeah, right. So that's, oh, I guess the last bit, I guess, for me is I'm very interested in this particular campaign. However, I'll probably want to play the original game first when I get my friend to open up his um his version of the game, and then based on that, then I will make my decision on whether I'm going to back this or not. But I do find this is a very interesting campaign, and I'm very interested in this particular campaign. Uh, right. So let's talk about Fish and Ships. So Fish and Ships is essentially a pirate hunting. You're a pirate hunting for treasures. You win by getting, uh, I guess, the right combination, or kind of like a semi-set collection type of treasure cards. It's very light and fun. They haven't done very well, unfortunately. I hope that they will do well. That they will fun. But I can see a couple of problems with this particular campaign, which I guess this is why I want to have a little chat about it, and probably, let's face it, I'll probably have a rant. First thing first, it has early bird shipping or early fish special. You will save, was it $6, and but you have to be quick because there's only 56 out of 100 left to go. With, funny enough, 12 days. That's a weird early bird special, but anyway. The Now, one of the things I do like, and in this particular case is not as good, and that is, where is it? Is we get credited as a backer on the website. Like, I like nifty things like this, but obviously I would probably prefer it to be on a box or a rule book somewhere, something where I feel like as a backer, I I'm actually involved in that game, and I can go, look, that's me. I did this, Like, I'm one of the original backers, and you can see my name on it. Like, I really hope more campaigns does this kind of things. Not so much I mean, the cards are quite neat, but they was it having your picture as, let's say, one, in this case, let's say a pirate, having your picture as pirate can be quite expensive, so I probably don't need that. But at least getting my name on the box is very nice. It's just a personal thing. And I wish more campaigns would do that. The weird thing is this one does have one, but it's $100 for what is essentially a light card game. It's a little bit pricey for me, so I've got a little bit of double standard there. But yeah, the in terms of the collector's bundle, the collector's bundle doesn't seem to be worth as much value in this particular campaign, because all you're really getting, because you get the credited back on the official website already. You get the copy of the game and a potential expansion, which will be in the stretch goal. But to get you're paying essentially another $22 more for a set of stickers, a pin, and an original Fish and Ships art, if that's something you're into. Is that worth an extra 22 US dollars to you? Up to you. Personally, this will be an instance where I would have just gone, the best value for this particular game is just the original game, just essentially the basic version, the entrance level pledge. The unfortunate thing about this particular game is this is one of the games where I found shipping to be very, very high. So even for the US, it's 11 US dollars. For New Zealand, it's 17. I primarily look at New Zealand. So at 17 and the original game, let's say you missed the early fish and you got here, the original game is 26. So it's way more than half. It's supposed to be a very light game. Shipping is very high for what is essentially a small deck of cards. So in this particular case, maybe it's our current climate with COVID, but at the same time, I would have gone, I kind of wish they made that box. Let's see if there's a better picture. Like that box seems very large for what is essentially a pack of cards. I don't, there's nothing more in here than just this pack of cards. So I kind of hope that the industry start moving away from, what was it, board game boxes that just takes up space for no reason, because space is kind of precious for us on our shelves. Well, I'm not sure if it is for you, but it is for me. So in terms of storage, I would like the minimum amount of space possible with maybe enough room for a potential expansion, maybe. But but this seems a bit ridiculous in terms of the size of this box for what is essentially a deck of cards, and it looks like the reason why it's that big is probably to fit this was it guide. And I've taken a look at the rulebook. It looks very good. It's pretty decent, and yeah, the game is relatively easy. It looks very fun and light, as I was saying. There is essentially, was it 4 actions? You're playing like an attack card, which is you're playing these cannons. You're either drawing cards, you're using one of your skullduggery card, which is essentially to steal one of the lockdown treasure cards. So usually you have cards in hand, you can put one face up in front of you and you lock that down. Someone can use a skullduggery card to steal that away from you. So I'm not sure why you want to lock down a card if people can steal that away from you anyway. So interesting enough. But there are some, I think, special instance cards that seems to be quite powerful. It's all very transparent. Feel free to read this when you get the chance. So the last one we'll take a look at is Elite, an epic tabletop strategy board game. This is where you're a leader trying to rebuild and reshape the world, and there are these so-called elite kind of like leaders that represent certain factions like political, economy, military. I'm not 100% sure whether you're the elite or you're leading an elite, and if you're leading an elite, then why would the elite follow you? Like there are some thematic problems with this particular game, but I guess yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. But let's start with this. So first thing first, as always, there's an early bird backer. So there's 30 hours to go. You can be an early bird backer and you'll save $5 US. The campaign page unfortunately looks very short. They got a lot of pictures, but they could have done a lot more in here. Like there's some criticism now, and probably my site rant is it's short. You don't get shipping, and you don't actually know about shipping until you click here. So unless you go, I'm going to be an early backer, then it gives you a shipping destination, and then you find out what shipping will be for you. So, but the problem I have with this is it's not obvious. Like you had to click on it, because I think I spent like the first 10 minutes scrolling around this page, going to the FAQ, going to updates, comments, trying to figure out what my shipping was. Eventually, I actually just clicked on it, and that's how I accidentally found it. So this should have been clearer. This should have been down here in the main campaign page somewhere. So if you're going to do shipping, I would recommend just putting a shipping, I guess, picture or grid here to represent what shipping is for the various country. I'm not sure why you need it here, but that's what they've done. And when I went to investigate this part of the game, it's actually really hard to find out how to play this game. So if you're running a campaign, why are you making it so hard for your backers to try and work out how to play your game? Now, if you've watched this video, and I have, this video looks very interesting. Like when I watched this, I was intrigued, and I was in like they sold me on that theme. And then I looked at how to play, and I'm just like, how do you even play this? It's like, what kind of game is it? I went to look at Board Game Geek, and it said something about worker placement. So there is a little bit of worker placement, which is essentially building or subjugating new villages. But that's not even worker placement. And maybe it's a military force, but your military force can also move around. Is that worker placement? That for me is not worker. It's like saying it's risk worker placement. I've never looked at risk as a worker placement game, but maybe I've been from my entire life, and risk is actually a worker placement game. I have a different view of what worker placement is. But that aside, not talking about worker placement, is what is this game? Like, how do you play it? What's the concept around it? The BGG or the Board Game Geek website was very light. There was like next to nothing on it. Their main website essentially pointed you to the Kickstarter. If you want us as a backer to be interested in backing your particular campaign, then please tell us more about your game. Like I was saying, this video, highly intriguing. It hooked me in. When I went to find more about the game, there's pretty much no information. It's like you've done half a job, and you've essentially already lost me. And then when I read the rulebook is also very convoluted. I eventually found out you win by victory points, and yeah, there's not a lot to the game. And it says that you can teach this game in 15 minutes. When reading the rulebook, I barely understood it. Maybe that's just me in terms of how the whole campaign goes. It took me a while to figure out this game has 3 acts. It took me a while to figure out how the acts end, because I read one thing that says worker placement, but then I didn't read anything that tells me like how many workers we have and so forth, and when we place workers. And then the act shows you the way it ended, and then when you look at the acts and the description about how an act ends, you have no control over time anymore. You can't even say that this is what did they even say? 45 minutes to 2 hours. This is why your game is 45 minutes to 2 hours, because that first act was so flexible, and when it switches to the next act, I can see this game to easily be over 3 hours. Like 2 hours is probably like a minimum. Unless you're an expert in this game, then maybe you can play this in 45 minutes, but even then I'll be very skeptical you can finish this pocket game in 45 minutes, even with 2 players. But it does has a lot of interesting concept, and it's a shame that they didn't try and market this better. Personally, for me, I was very interested, and I wanted to look more into this, but due to the lack of information, the lack of how to play, all of this kind of deterred me a bit. And I guess my final bit about this is New Zealand's not on the map. Come on, guys. I know we're the small country of nowhere, but where are we? Where's New Zealand? Please add our poor little country into your map. Yeah, so I guess personally for me, first of all, New Zealand's not on the map, so that's a slight turn off for me. And second of all, shipping is 50 New Zealand dollars USD, and the game is only 55 or even 60. So the value proposition isn't really there. Um, if you really want people like myself as one of your backers, then you really need to highlight how to play your game better, highlight what the mechanics of the game is, and really sell it to us. Um, and yeah, there was just a number of things that seems to be a little bit disconnected. So I had wished that they had connected it a little bit better. But anyway, that's my rant for today. I hope you at least enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about my thoughts on this new Gamefound piece. Um, Let me know on the whole bit about polling. Am I missing something? Is there actually a purpose in doing polls via comments as opposed to an actual poll? I could just be missing something, and I'm very interested to know. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. I hope you got something out of it. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.